So, I've been gone a while. It's been a good 3 months since a proper upload on this channel. I'm sure most of you didn't even notice I was gone. You were probably too busy getting sucked into Shane Dawson's Jake Paul documentary. Don't lie, we all watched it.
I just got the chills.
I posted a few vlogs over the last couple months explaining what was going on, but I've decided to delete those videos because they don't fit on the channel. And because I hate my face. So what happened to me? Well, back in late July, I blazed it up. You know what I'm saying? Got really lit, as the kids say, right? My house caught on fire. Yeah. Specifically, the part of my house where all of my stuff was. The prevailing theory is that lightning struck somewhere nearby, causing a power surge, and that led to an electrical fire. Gaming consoles, computer, recording equipment, all of that got pretty messed up, and the last few months have been a process of salvaging, replacing, and repairing. Things aren't totally back to where they were before the mighty Zeus unleashed his wrath upon me, but I'm getting there. And I want to take a second to say big thank you to all of you that sent me well wishes and even some donations during this whole mess. I really appreciate all of it. Luckily, most of my consoles turned out to work fine after a good cleaning, minus all of the Nintendo stuff since they insist on putting screens on all their hardware, and I was able to pass the time stuck in a spare bedroom by playing video games. I replayed some favorites, tried some stuff I missed out on from last year, and did my best to keep up with newer releases too, which are what I'll be focusing on here. Since this whole ordeal has left me incredibly behind, I decided to dedicate my first video back to doing a bit of catch-up, giving brief reviews of 2018 releases that I wasn't able to properly cover as they came out. Some of them I'll score on my 1 to 10 scale, now on screen for those of you that need to know what that is, and others I'll give my thoughts on without scoring because I haven't played enough of them to feel confident giving a final concrete number. I guess you can consider this a bunch of critical quickies all rolled into one. Feel free to check the description for timestamps if you want to see exactly what I'll be covering or just want to know my thoughts on one game in particular. Dead Cells takes the progression of a Metroidvania and integrates it into this procedurally generated action roguelite that has you slowly chipping away at its... wait a minute. My bad, I was actually just reading someone else's review of the game word for word. Wasn't at all intentional, guys. After all, doing that would undoubtedly destroy any credibility I had and ensure that no one would ever take me seriously ever again. Back to the game, Dead Cells is really damn good. It's one of those just one more run kind of experiences, where each gut-punching defeat just inspires you to begin anew and see how much further you can get. This is aided by each run typically having you find or earn something to aid you in future attempts, like new weapons, abilities, or stat-altering mutations. Each time I thought I had a weapon I couldn't live without, I'd inevitably stumble upon one I hadn't seen before and fall in love all over again. This is a challenging game. You're going to die, and die a lot, but you also feel like you're becoming just the slightest bit stronger with each failure, allowing you to progress further the next time. All different kinds of playstyles are viable and fun, whether you like getting up close and personal with your enemies, attacking from afar with a bow, or just want to rely on traps to do most of the killing for you. The controls are pitch perfect, and the presentation, especially the music, is great. I'm not going to be giving the game a score as I haven't reached the end yet, because I suck at life, but Dead Cells is one of the best of its genre and an easy recommendation. Don't be shocked if this game shows up on multiple Game of the Year lists. If this whole fire incident was good for one thing, it's that the downtime finally gave me a chance to fall in love with the Yakuza series. Stuck in a room with nothing but a PS4 and a copy of Yakuza 0, I spent 5 days straight immersed in the weird and wacky world of Japanese crime drama and had a great time doing so. Coincidentally, like 2 days after I finished that, Yakuza Kiwami 2 came out, and I immediately jumped right in. Kiwami 2 is a complete remake of fan-favorite entry Yakuza 2, a game on the PlayStation 2. We're not just talking about a simple up-res here. The entire game was redone from top to bottom, and this effort resulted in what is currently my favorite game in the series so far. It tells a strong story with well-developed characters and has way better pacing than both 0 and Kiwami 1, both of which have a habit of getting distracted from their primary narrative more often than I'd like. But that's not what truly makes these games great. The thing that makes Yakuza so appealing is its somehow perfect balancing of serious crime story melodrama and over-the-top wacky bullshit. You'll watch an emotional scene between two characters one minute, only to beat a man into submission using a dirty toilet plunger the next. You'll witness a totally badass moment that segues into an all-out brawl, Then follow that up with some karaoke and a perverted pissing minigame. And it all somehow just works. The brawling system is more simplified when compared to Zero's, lacking the multiple fighting styles that added variety to the many street fights you'll be dragged into, which can make the constant scuffles get somewhat repetitive. Also, Mahjong is fucking impossible. That's not really a knock against Kiwami 2, that's just an observation. I am now officially a fan of this series, and you should be too. Now I just have to wait for Sega to re-release the other entries on PS4 so I can play through them in order, which I fully intend to do. Marvel's Spider-Man is a Spider-Man game. Have you ever played a Spider-Man game before? It's another one of those, but it's absolutely the webhead's most well-put-together adventure to date. Swinging around the Big Apple continues to be one of the most enjoyable ways to get around an open world, and both the brawling and stealth are simple to pick up and figure out, but feel great to skillfully pull off. There are a few too many non-Spidey sneaking missions, however. They aren't bad, I just don't think there needs to be so many of them. Speaking of excess, most of the side content boils down to beating up bad guys over and over again. It's not really something you notice until you're mopping up for 100% completion, but it can be a bit of a slog sometimes. A little more variety would certainly help. The story doesn't have a ton of surprises if you're even vaguely aware of the web-slinger's history, but it's still a nicely executed tale. Everyone is expertly acted and fleshed out nicely, so I look forward to seeing more of them in the inevitable sequel. Whether you're a die-hard comic book expert or just a casual Marvel fan, Spider-Man is a really satisfying web-slinging romp. Man, what a letdown this turned out to be. I liked the 2013 Tomb Raider reboot and loved its follow-up Rise, but this one just missed the mark for me. At a glance, Shadow of the Tomb Raider seems like more of what the previous two offered, and yeah, it is, but everything about it just feels off, or at the very least, less polished. The story isn't very good, making this supposed conclusion to the new trilogy feel like just another entry. There's less shooting than before, which might seem like a good thing to longtime series fans, but the environment isn't all that fun to explore, resulting in more lulls between the interesting stuff. And why is there so much goddamn swimming? It feels like half your time is spent breaststroking through dull underwater caverns that all look the same. Gameplay-wise, it all functions and typically feels fine, but I don't know, there's something about it that doesn't click like it did in the first two games. The mini puzzle rooms that are the optional tombs are still a highlight, and while I've complained a lot, I don't think the game is bad, it just doesn't come together in a gratifying way. If you really want to know how Miss Croft's story ends, I say wait for it to drop in price. I usually play like one racing game a year, and nowadays, more often than not, that racing game has Forza in the title. Forza Horizon 4 is another high-quality video game about cars. It's the perfect thing to play while just chilling out, at least if that's how you want it to be. Whether you want a hardcore simulation, turning off all the assists and only using manual shifting like a crazy person, or you're more like me and just want to casually do some laps while listening to pop music with the ability to rewind any costly mistakes, both options are available to you. There is a stupid amount of things to do in Horizon 4's depiction of the UK, and the new Seasons feature can make the same event feel entirely different. No score for this game either, since I've barely scratched the surface of the content on offer, but if you're looking for a racer you can spend the next few months playing, then you should look no further. You ever see a game get universal praise from just about everyone, but no matter how hard you try, you just can't understand why? On a totally unrelated note, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. So, up front, this won't be getting a score either, because I stopped playing it after about 10 hours. I simply can't see what's making everyone fall in love with this game, and this is coming from someone who has played every mainline Assassin's Creed and finished all of them, with the exception of Origins. Odyssey just seems like the epitome of a cookie-cutter Ubisoft open-world game. The map is excessively huge, and there's tons of content, sure, but it's not meaningful content. At least what I played wasn't. The side missions mostly felt like busy work, the ship combat wasn't fun at all and paled in comparison to Black Flag, and the story hooks largely failed to grab me. This is a game in desperate need of an editor. I would much prefer the map to be like half the size with more meaningful activities filling that space. And if you're going to be one of those people that says, no, the game, it gets really good at the 15-hour mark, just think about what you're saying. If it really takes that long for things to become engaging, that's a problem, and speaks volumes to my point about the game being way too bloated. There are moments of fun to be had with the combat and stealth, but nowhere near enough to carry me through the whole thing. Even in the low teens, leveling already feels like a slog. And when they're selling time saver XP boosters in their store, as well as tons of other things like resources and in-game currency packs, there's no conclusion I can reach other than progression has been tweaked to make these purchases more appealing. And that's just gross. If you love Assassin's Creed Odyssey and don't think it's a grind at all, good for you, I'm glad you're enjoying your purchase. I, however, will be moving on and not looking back. I'm at a somewhat weird crossroads with Black Ops 4. I think as a multiplayer package, it's pretty great. It's the most fun I've had with competitive Call of Duty in years. The change to the health system tweaks the flow of encounters just enough to feel meaningful, and I had fun with each of the specialists, personally not finding any of them to be particularly overpowered. Yeah, it still has some bad spawns and hit detection that causes a raised eyebrow from time to time, but I had a blast with it for the most part. Blackout is just another Battle Royale mode, but it's an incredibly well-made one, arguably the most polished version of the concept to date, and the few wins I managed to achieve were really gratifying. And Zombies was fun too, with 3 solid maps to shoot undead on, although I did run into the most matchmaking issues in it. All 3 of its components are executed efficiently, but as a longtime series player, it's impossible to shake the feeling that something is missing. Because it is. Sure, there are snippets of story in the tutorial section, but what's there is disjointed and unfulfilling. Especially in a game with the Black Ops name attached, the lack of a proper campaign sticks out. Plus, locking content like an entire 4th Zombies map behind the overpriced Season Pass is complete bullshit. I only rented Black Ops 4 for a weekend, but I'll fully admit that if I still had the same Call of Duty friends I used to back in the series' heyday, I would absolutely purchase it. If all you've ever cared about is playing online, it's certainly worth buying, but when compared to other entries in the series, it definitely feels like it's lacking something. So this game wasn't on my radar at all until the day it came out. Then I saw a review of it pop up in my subscription feed from GGG Man Lives, great channel by the way, go watch him, and I decided to buy it on a whim. This turned out to be a very good decision. Project Warlock is a throwback to shooters from the 90s. Think Hexen or Doom, and you'll have a pretty good idea of what you're in for. This is pure run-and-gun action, blowing away all kinds of creatures across varied locales, finding colored keys to open doors, and spamming the use key on every wall in the hopes of uncovering a secret room. It's pretty rad. There's a large arsenal of powerful weapons to use, all of which can be upgraded into even more deadly variants of themselves as you progress and earn skill points. There are also magic spells to unlock if you so choose, though to be honest, I haven't messed with them much since the guns are both effective and immensely gratifying. If I have one major complaint about Project Warlock, it's that many of its levels are just too dark in terms of lighting. Using the default settings, it can be legitimately hard to see at times, which can lead you to getting turned around or missing an environmental detail. Let's just say there's a reason the very first spell you're given is an unlimited use flashlight. Even if you go into the graphics and tweak the brightness and other variables, some areas can still be damn near pitch black. This seems to be the atmosphere the developers were going for, and I'm not saying every level needs to be lit up like a Dutch brothel, but I think a happier medium between the two would make for an improved player experience. Still, Project Warlock is pretty sweet. It's currently available on GOG for $12 and is worth every penny if you feel the need to kill things like it's 1995. And that is where we conclude our review extravaganza. With any luck, this video made for an alright return for yours truly, and I again want to thank everyone for their support and welcome all the new subscribers to the channel. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and whether you liked the video or not, please be sure to leave a rating, good or bad, I can take it. And for those wondering, I do have my next project planned already, which will be a follow-up to the Splinter Cell video that brought so many of you here, and I'm gonna get to work on that real soon. Right after I'm finished with Red Dead.